Is anything happening? When the phone did at last connect, I hurriedly told my husband. It seems someone broke into the chamber. Things are all disorganized. Your room seems okay, yet something might be absent. Right now I'm phoning the police. Wait a moment, my husband replied, hesitated before imparting something I wouldn't have expected. I had let my mother linger in the room during our trip. What does that mean? I started to wonder. Maya here is my name. I work for a firm and am 32 years old. Since I graduated from university, I have been working hard. Recently, I got married 1 year ago. Tyler is your husband. He works for a company we also cooperate with. Tyler initially crossed my path when I attended a meeting at his company serving as the new project leader. Though I was anxious, he smiled warmly to me. Nice to meet you. Tyler is me. Working with you excites me, he replied. Following some meetups over time, we became to know one another better. Tyler asked me one day following a conference, Maya, do you now have some time? Would you want tea in a cafe? No? That sounds pleasing. I would like to go. We talked at the cafe, and his friendliness and sense of humor really appealed to me. I could relax sharing with him. Maya, Tyler remarked after some time, I've been hoping to get to know you better. How about dining together this weekend? I startled and delighted myself when he stated that. Indeed, I said, I would love to. We then attended more dates. Tyler always was friendly and paid close attention to me. Tyler abruptly expressed his feelings about 8 months later over a dinner date. To be really honest, Maya has always been on my mind. Will you accompany me outside? Loving you. Happy in my heart, I answered, I love you too, Tyler. Our future together sounds exciting. Our romantic relationship formally started that moment. Tyler suggested several times as we were still courting, stating, Maya, let us share a house. Allow us to be married. Initially, I wasn't sure. It moved somewhat quickly. Still, Tyler's great love and desire to start a life together gave me hope. I at last said one day, Tyler, I also want to be with you going forward. Allow me to propose marriage. Tyler was ecstatic, and then our new life together started. Sharing meals, watching TV, and having talks at home with him offered me great delight after spending so long living alone. Living married with Tyler makes me very content. Still, my mother-in-law is one thing that irritates me. She's still in her 30s since she had Tyler while she was young. Tyler's single mother reared him. They live really close. She invites him, thus they go shopping together rather regularly. She struggles to let go of Tyler maybe for this reason. She participates regularly in our marriage. For instance, she accompanied us in selecting a dining table for our new apartment and commented, Maya, how would you like this table? I find it really amazing. I hesitated, then said, yes, but it might be a bit too big. She insisted, no, a big table will make family dinners more pleasant. Exactly, Tyler. She then turned to get his agreement. Tyler answered, yeah, maybe a bigger one would be better. My mother-in-law concluded, then it's settled. She also carried a spare key to our residence for some unidentified purpose. She frequently dropped over without notifying us. When I got home one day, she was cooking clam chowder in the kitchen. Maya, welcome back. Today I'm making clam chowder, she remarked, smiling. I aimed to gently explain, Mom, it's a bit troublesome when you come over without telling us first. She grinned back and said, don't be so official. We are relatives, hence it is not trouble for me to visit any time, right? She'd also asked me to cook for her quite a bit. Maya, kindly come to my house with Tyler and help to prepare the dinner next weekend. I stammered and said, but you cook really well. Why should I start doing this? It's not about that. Young folks should work hard. It's excellent for them. Tyler was looking forward it, she said. Looking a little tense, Tyler said, yes, Maya, your food is consistently great. I find great excitement in it. Her meddling persisted and began to cause me anxiety. She wasn't merely meddling. She would say hurtful things and seemed angry with me most of the time. For instance, she showed up without notifying us while we recently were celebrating Tyler's birthday at our house. She exclaimed, "Happy birthday," when she arrived. Tyler said, "Oh, Mom." Seeing me, she remarked, "Oh, Maya's here too. You had today off from work?" "Indeed," I replied. "I stayed off to celebrate Tyler's birthday." She scowled and remarked, "That's a mistake. Tyler and I had decided to celebrate his birthday just by ourselves. Your presence calls off our plans." "I wish you understood that better." Calm under pressure, I answered, "But I am Tyler's wife now." She shot back, "So what if you're his wife? You seem more vital than his mother does. Your marriage is but a piece of paper. Don't lead yourself too far ahead. I brought his mother into this world." She often seemed to place her connection with Tyler before mine. She loved her son so much, hence she disliked me quite a lot. She was thus usually icy towards me. I reminded myself to keep cool and avoid jealousy. She raised Tyler alone, hence it is something to appreciate. Then, though, something occurred that I could not overlook. Last week, my grandfather handed me an old watch in the living room before he died. He handed me his oldest watch when he fell ill and had to shut his watch store. Worth more than $40,000, this antique watch was left in his will, and I should only sell it should I ever have financial problems. This watch grew to be a really unique heritage for me until he passed away. I kept it in the living room so I could be always near to him. When my mother-in-law arrived one day, she spotted the watch and attacked it. "This is what is here. Why, in the living room, retain such an old, battered watch like it has any worth?" She seemed to not get when I tried to explain that it was a unique recollection from my grandfather and a precious antique. Her contempt of the watch made me feel as though she was likewise contemptuous of my grandfather and myself. It etched a lot. Chose to stow the watch in a drawer in my room to guard it from more comments. She later laughed and asked, "What happened to that historic watch?" She seemed delighted like she had won when I told her I kept it in my room, which just made me feel worse. Tyler tried to console me after she departed by asking whether I was good. I related to him the hurt I experienced from what his mother stated. Though he listened, his response was always the same. "My mom does this because she loves me." I'm embarrassed. I was not looking for an apologies. When it came to his mother, I simply wanted his support. I knew, though, how much he valued her raising him alone and how much he loved me as well. I couldn't blame him since I realized he struggled to be caught between his mother and me. Ultimately, I felt as though my only option was to continue bearing it for his benefit. Then Tyler suddenly scheduled a week-long trip. Knowing he was trying to calm the tension with his mother, I felt so relieved and delighted. Just the two of us, we traveled, and I truly loved our time spent together. I hardly thought of my mother-in-law throughout a whole week. The days went by fast, and this was such a joyful period. At last the day arrived for our return home. Tyler had to first stop by his workplace, so I returned home by myself. I unlocked our house as I returned, considering the joyful recollections from our trip. Our known flat was here, but something felt off as soon as I entered the living room. At first, I struggled to exactly identify what it was. Feeling nervous, I looked about. 1 minute's wait. I recalled that before we left, I had carefully closed the windows and curtains, but suddenly I found the window lock undone and the curtains slightly open. Usually kept in its case, the TV remote was carefully arranged on the table. The sofa cushions were disorganized. Though not clearly, it appeared as though everything had been rearranged. Although the room was tidy, I always keep everything in order, hence these little adjustments made me quite uncomfortable. I went to the kitchen and saw some food vanished from the refrigerator. The wash basin contained watermarks, as someone had lately used it. This entails what? Looking at the entrance, nothing seemed out of place. I began to wonder whether my mother-in-law, with a spare key, had entered without notifying us. We wouldn't have left the window unlocked, though, and it didn't seem like something she would do while we were away. I thought at the time she respected our space somewhat. Then I considered it could have been a burglar, but I didn't want to accept it. Should it have been a break-in, there would be more mess, right? I tried to tell myself Tyler must have moved something before we left. Everything in the living room seemed perfect. My concern continued mounting even though I tried to persuade myself I couldn't reach Tyler. Assuming someone had actually arrived. Nervous, I carefully unlocked the door to my room. What I found as I walked inside stunned me. My room was entirely disorganized. Underwear was strewn on the floor, and clothes that ought to have been carefully folded were tossed all over the bed. Things were mixed among the open drawers of the dresser. The most startling feature was my desk. Every drawer had been taken out, and the contents were scattered all about. I looked fast through the other rooms, but just my room had been singled out. Why just this space? This place has nothing very valuable. I then considered the watch my grandfather left me. No way at all. Why has it disappeared? I looked about the desk desperately, but the watch vanished from sight. I knew then the watch had been taken. Someone had clearly been in and grabbed it, but I couldn't understand why they would steal such an antique watch. I lost control and hurriedly tried once more to phone my spouse. The call made this time connected. Did something happen? He inquired. I quickly said, "It looks someone broke in. The room is disorganized. Your room seems okay. Yet something might be absent. Right now I am phoning the cops." He answered, seeming worried. "Really?" "Indeed, there is some food lacking from the refrigerator as well. Someone else has to have crept in." "Wait a minute," he murmured. "Before you call the police, I would like to see it personally. I will shortly be at home. See whether anything else is gone in meantime." "But I am so excited. This is serious. Some of my possessions are vanished," I yell. Then, in a tense voice, my husband uttered something unanticipated. "Actually, I let our mother remain in the flat during our trip." "What does you mean?" Shocked, I questioned. "She can easily travel downtown from our flat, which is near to the station. She wanted to stay here to keep it safe." "Wait, why would you decide on your own such a significant matter?" Not at all informed me. I became enraged. Knowing I got along poorly with his mother, I felt offended he hadn't given my sentiments any thought. But he only sought to cool me down, not deal with my wrath. "There's no need to be so upset," he remarked. "It has always been this. My mother visits as she chooses. Just handle it like previously." "That isn't humorous. I cannot just bear this. My mother-in-law destroyed the space. To merely accept it is ridiculous." I heard a voice behind me suddenly. "Maya, why are you so furious?" My mother-in-law was it. "Mom, are you chatting with Tyler right now?" Still irritated, I asked. She said sternly, "Why are you speaking to my son like that?" I said, "I'm annoyed because he let you stay at our house without telling me. It's not right." "How dare you?" she said sharply. "Blaming Tyler is like declaring you hate that I'm here." Unable to hold back, I added, "Honestly, I don't want you coming and going from our house whenever you feel like it." She responded sharply, "You're such a coward, Maya. Don't communicate like that, acting like the victim. You just blame me and get enraged at Tyler for no reason. It is all in your mind." I had obviously been influenced quite strongly. I knew my mother-in-law had been the one in there. My room had been rifled. Why I was being blamed escaped me. Tyler's defense of her under the circumstances startled me even more. Tyler returned home after some time, obviously agitated, and sided with his mother, criticizing me for overreaction. find this unbelievable. Maya, he said, this is unacceptable. I could tolerate it no more. To show Tyler and his mother the clutter, I brought them into my room. When Tyler saw the condition of the room, he couldn't hide his horror, but my mother-in-law seemed hardly startled at all, almost as though she knew exactly what had happened. She became clearly the one in charge. "Mom, tell me straight out. You did this?" Tyler inquired. "You're exaggerating even if the place wasn't tidy. Not so horrible," she said dismissively. "I just forgot to clean up, that's all," my mother-in-law remarked haversely. "There won't be an issue if I clean it now, right? Anyhow, I was planning to do it later. You're becoming overly sensitive." She said she was the one who created the problem, yet she expressed no guilt at all. Tyler stood there silent, clearly uncomfortable. She began to protect herself then. "I left mine at home. I borrowed Maya's clothing. We are not particularly different in scale, hence I thought it would be reasonable. Since we are family, it seems irrational to feel offended over this. Don't you find?" Tyler started to agree with her very unexpectedly. "I suppose so. You cannot attribute everything to my mother based alone on a few missing items. Families borrow stuff on a regular basis. It's unusual not to pardon a little mess." I had been hoping for both of their apologies. It was quite the reverse instead. Though it was obvious she had messed up my room, Tyler even requested me to apologize to his mother for my nasty remarks and attitude. Seeing him so fervently back her caused my affections for him to wane. Inside, I began to feel empty. Though the truth was different, I had always thought Tyler loved me just as much as he loved his mother. He eagerly accused me and obviously sided with her to avoid any criticism towards himself. Neglected and devastated, I chose to stand up for myself at that same time. I could not keep suppressing for Tyler's benefit anymore. I had already calculated my next action before Tyler came back. Turning to my mother-in-law, I inquired straightforwardly, "Where did you take my watch?" Though she seemed anxious, she responded, "I have no idea about a watch. Why would I be interested in an antiquated object?" But her response pointed her away. She had stolen it, I was sure. Whatever Tyler said, I was not going to pardon her. I gently pressed her once more. "You confess you left this room messy. You have to know where the items missing are." Tyler launched himself in defense of her. "Hey, cut off accusing my mother. Is it worth becoming this offended over only a watch if she claims she forgot? Let's drop this. I'll purchase you a new watch if you truly want one that much." "Stop interfering, Tyler," I insisted. "That watch is only one item remaining from my grandfather. It is not replaceable. I'll not stop till I have it back." "I am not a stealer. Your noise level is excessive," my mother-in-law responded defensively. "It's good to be noisy if you didn't steal it," I said. "Then we have to take into account that someone else broke in. In such scenario, I have to notify the police right away. They can look, fingerprint take, and assist us in rapidly locating the offender." I went outside the room taking my phone. At that moment, my mother-in-law rushed to stop me. "Please wait. The cops are not needed called upon here. To be honest, I did borrow it, but I'll return it in a week, okay?" "Just a moment ago, you said you knew nothing about it," I said. "And please don't use the word borrowed. Taking something without permission is stealing. You've just admitted to stealing it. The watch comes from where? It's incredibly important to me, and I need it back now. I can't wait a week." She started sweating, looking more and more scared. "It's impossible," she said. "Why is that?" I asked, experiencing a sensation of dread. "Because I have sold it to a pawn shop." "What? Really? You sold it?" "Yes, it sold for $40,000. Can you believe it? It didn't seem worth that much." "Stop joking. Can you right now return the $40,000? I asked. "I'll go to the pawn shop myself to get it back. "Oh, well, I'm sorry, but that's impossible," she muttered. "I've already spent most of the money, and there's only a little left. You'll have to locate the money yourself." Seeing her sarcastic and contemptuous attitude, I concluded there was no purpose in prolonging the talk. I made up my mind to take the ultimate step. "I see. This was your final chance," I said gently. I dialed the cops. "Hello, I'm the individual who called earlier. Unfortunately, a theft has occurred, and the person guilty is here. Kindly arrive immediately." After the call, Tyler and his mother hurried up to me in a panic. "Who did you just call?" they questioned. "I called the police," I explained. "I have told them about the situation, and they urged me to check things out first. Now that it's evident you took my watch and sold it without authorization, I've reported it. Not only did you take it, but you also sold it and used the money for yourself. That represents a crime." She said, "What are you talking about?" sharply. "I was tending to your needs. I turned that old, useless object into money for you, and instead of thanks you contacted the cops. Maya, I find amazing. Is this not too extreme?" Tyler followed up. "My mother is your family too." "Family?" Feeling wounded, I said, "I cannot count someone as family who takes from me and shows no guilt about it. She belongs in crime. An offender. Not at all. I have explained it several times." She objected. But I had already made my decision. "I haven't done anything," my mother-in-law claimed. "Well, all of this conversation has been recorded, and I plan to give it to the police as evidence," I said calmly. "You shouldn't underestimate the police. Once they review the fingerprints and the pawn shop's video footage, it will be evident that you are the offender. Continuing to hide it will just make matters worse for you." As I spoke, a cold smile on my face. Both my mother-in-law and my husband exhibited their anger. "This is ridiculous. Just because I borrowed it, it's come to this? Are you serious?" she fumed. My husband added, "If you do this, I won't hesitate to consider divorce. Is that what you want?" "You'll be in danger, too, if we get a divorce." It appeared they hoped the word divorce would terrify me into backing down. But I maintained calm and replied, "I don't mind at all. What's more concerning is that your mother is a criminal. I've been ready for divorce from the start." "Wait, please. The divorce discussion was simply a joke," my spouse said hastily, feeling concerned. I became too emotional. "Please reconsider. I'll apologize as many times as you want, but please overlook my mother's acts." As he begged, tears showed up in his eyes. Ironically, his mother should have been apologizing. She just stood there with her arms crossed, gazing at me as though to threaten me. "Your excuses are useless," I insisted. "You continuously ignore my feelings and keep protecting her. I have forgiven both of you numerous times. I'm not forgiving either of you this time." My mother-in-law was enraged, and my husband was stunned by my tough position. "Actually," I said, "before this event with the watch, your mother had injured me several times already. One paycheck, $1,000 left at home, vanished from sight. She had been around, I knew, but I had no evidence. I have been purposefully leaving phony bills all about the house since then. You would be surprised to learn that." She started to wither, clearly perspiration. "What ought I to do?" she mumbled. "What should I do?" As the truth of the matter sank in, detailed everything when the cops showed up, saying things like, "This is just a family matter, and my wife is exaggerating." Tyler and his mother tried to dispute, but the police arrested my mother-in-law on suspicion of stealing based on the state of the room and the taped discussion. Tyler accompanied her to the police station under officer direction. Later, I went to the pawn store her mother-in-law had suggested. She clearly had sold the watch at the shop. The CCTV verified it. Fortunately, my grandfather's watch remained unsold yet was still with him. I was able to get it with the officer's assistance. Although confronting my husband and mother-in-law wasn't simple, I think calling the police was the appropriate action to do. It felt like my grandfather was pleased of me when I held the watch once more. The divorce from my husband was then official. I turned aside his requests to aid his mother and to avoid the divorce. Sometimes I see him at work, but I avoid interacting with him. My boss, who knows the circumstances, manages things professionally. I spoke with him entirely through attorneys, and finally my spouse agreed to the divorce. The police acquired more data, including the statement of the pawn shop clerk, verifying the culpability of my mother-in-law. She is presently serving 4 years in prison. Her first acts were merely to annoy me, but she became greedy and spent all the money she found out the watch was worth. She lost her part-time job as a result and may find it difficult to land employment once she leaves jail. Her life was destroyed by a major crime derived from what began as small harassment. Her behaviors reveal shockingly naive stupidity. She had no savings, hence the $40,000 to pay back the pawn store fell to my ex-husband. Now working hard to cover his mother's living expenses, everyone at his company is aware of our divorce and what his mother did. This has made his life challenging and uncomfortable. I am at last free from the tension my ex-husband and his mother bring about. I'm really appreciating my freedom. Although my marriage did not live up to my expectations, it really comforts me to be able to keep the priceless watch from my beloved grandfather safe. I'm delighted to live my single life since right now I'm more concerned in myself than in love connections. Along with fresh interests and pastimes, I'm also searching for after all I have gone through. I am committed to taking care of myself and experiencing life totally as a fresh chapter in my life opens. I want to live an active, happy life and spend my days hoping and delightedly.
Hi, everyone. I'm Margaret, a 30-year-old marketing consultant living in a cozy suburban neighborhood. Life felt pretty balanced with my wonderful husband, Mike, and our energetic 5-year-old daughter, Hazel. Mike, a high school teacher, and I shared not just a deep love for each other, but for our lively little girl, who brought endless joy into our world. One weekend, we had an important work conference to attend, a significant opportunity for both of us professionally. That's when Mike's Aunt Jennifer offered to babysit Hazel. Jennifer was well-meaning but known for her strict, old-fashioned ways. She had always been involved in our lives, the kind of person who clung tightly to tradition, shaping much of Mike's family values. Jennifer really loves Hazel, Mike reassured me one evening as we discussed our plans. She's always been there when we've needed her. I nodded, tucking a loose strand of Hazel's hair behind her ear as I watched her draw. I know, but you remember how she can be. About, well, everything. Remember last Christmas? She nearly lost it because Hazel wore her hair down at church. Mike chuckled. Yeah, but she means well, and we need someone for the weekend. Hazel likes her anyway. He was right. Hazel did enjoy Jennifer's old stories and the way she baked cookies with meticulous care, ensuring every single one had exactly the same amount of chocolate chips. Okay, maybe you're right. It's just for 2 days, I agreed, though a small part of me still felt uneasy. The next day, Jennifer arrived early, her hair pulled back in its usual tight bun, carrying a bag full of crafts and books for Hazel. Thank you so much for this, Jennifer. We really appreciate it, I said, handing her a list of emergency numbers and Hazel's schedule, now pinned to the fridge. Of course, darling. Go, have a wonderful time. We'll be just fine, won't we, Hazel? Jennifer smiled warmly, kneeling down to hug Hazel, who gave a cautious but curious nod. As Mike and I got into the car, I glanced back and saw them waving from the doorway. A knot formed in my stomach, not about the conference, but about leaving Hazel under the strict gaze of Aunt Jennifer. Her ideas about how young girls should act and dress came from a different era, and our free-spirited Hazel was anything but traditional. Are you sure about this? I murmured as we drove off. Mike reached over, giving my hand a reassuring squeeze. It'll be fine, Em. It's just a weekend, and we've left her with Jennifer before. What's the worst that could happen? Little did we know, that weekend would test the strength of our family bonds in ways we never expected. The weekend away was a refreshing break for Mike and me. We enjoyed the rare opportunity to step back from the daily grind, talking about not just work, but also Hazel's future and our upcoming family vacation. As we sat in a quaint cafe, sipping coffee, I smiled at Mike. "It's nice to have this time together," I said, feeling a sense of peace. "Yeah, we should do this more often. Maybe a couples retreat next time," Mike suggested playfully. I laughed, though a hint of concern still lingered. As long as Jennifer's not babysitting. Back at home, things weren't as peaceful. Hazel's boundless energy was in stark contrast to Jennifer's orderly, quiet lifestyle. "Hazel, dear, let's tidy up these toys and remember," inside voices, Jennifer instructed as she followed Hazel from room to room, her patience thinning with each of Hazel's enthusiastic bursts. "But Aunt Jennifer, why can't I sing while I play? Mommy lets me at home," Hazel protested, her long hair bouncing as she skipped around with her dolls. Jennifer frowned, her thoughts on proper behavior clashing with Hazel's free-spirited nature. "It's not ladylike to be so unruly, and your hair, it's far too much for a little girl to manage." By Sunday morning, Jennifer had reached her limit. She decided that if she was to care for Hazel properly, some changes were necessary, starting with that unruly hair. "Hazel, come here, love. We're going to fix your hair and make it easier for you to play." Jennifer coaxed her into a seat, scissors in hand, unaware of the lasting mark she was about to make. When Mike and I finally pulled into the driveway later that day, we were eager to scoop Hazel up and hear all about her weekend. But the scene that greeted us froze us in our tracks. Hazel sat on the porch, her head bowed, tiny hands covering her eyes as she sobbed. My heart sank. When she looked up, I felt a jolt of horror. Her once beautiful hair was almost completely gone, with only a few uneven patches remaining. "What happened?" I gasped, rushing to her side. Mike was right behind me, his voice booming with a mixture of shock and fury. "Jennifer, what have you done?" Jennifer appeared in the doorway, her expression a blend of defiance and self-righteousness. "I did what was necessary for her own good. Her hair was too much, too immodest for a girl her age." My shock turned to rage as I held Hazel close, her tears soaking into my shirt. "How could you decide that for her, for us?" I demanded, my voice trembling with disbelief and anger. This wasn't just an overstep, it was a violation. Mike stood beside me, his jaw clenched as he confronted his aunt. The pleasant memories of our weekend vanished, replaced by a storm of betrayal. "You had no right, Jennifer. None." Jennifer, unrepentant, clasped her hands tightly in front of her. "I did what I thought was best. Her hair was out of control, and you weren't here to see how it affected her play. Modesty and discipline. These are values she needs." Mike's usual calm demeanor gave way to a protective edge. "But she's not your child, Aunt Jennifer. You crossed a line. We trusted you." His voice was firm, yet I could see the conflict in his eyes. This was his family, but he stood unwaveringly by my side. Jennifer stubbornly defended her actions, clinging to her beliefs about tradition and discipline. My anger hardened into resolve. This wasn't a one-time mistake, it was a symptom of a much deeper issue. Over the next few days, I reached out to other family members, piecing together a pattern of behavior I hadn't fully seen before. Stories surfaced about Jennifer's strict rules, her critical comments at family gatherings, and her insistence on outdated values many of us didn't share. Each story fueled my determination. Mike and I sat down, united in our decision to distance ourselves from Jennifer for Hazel's sake. "We need to focus on Hazel's well-being," I told him, my voice steady with determination. "She needs to feel safe and loved, not judged and controlled." Mike nodded, the weight of the decision clear in his eyes. "I know, and we'll do whatever it takes to support her." Together, we explained to Hazel that what happened wasn't her fault. We reassured her that her hair and her choices were hers alone. We spent extra time with her, reading stories, playing games, and slowly watching her bright spirit return. We made a fun game of finding colorful scarves and playful hats to adorn her head, turning the painful situation into something a little more bearable. Jennifer's reaction to our decision was a mix of disbelief and bitterness, but it didn't sway us. The need to protect our daughter's emotional well-being was clearer than ever. Through this ordeal, we redefined the boundaries of family involvement and the values we wanted to nurture in our home. Jennifer's presence in our lives became less frequent, and though it was painful, the space allowed our family to heal. Hazel's resilience in the weeks that followed was nothing short of inspiring. Mike and I focused on her recovery, filling each day with new fun hair accessories. We found vibrant scarves, sparkly clips, and superhero-themed hats that Hazel wore proudly. "Look, Daddy, I'm a superhero today," Hazel exclaimed one morning, twirling in a bright pink cap with a cape flowing from the back. Mike crouched down, his eyes shining with pride and joy. "You sure are, honey. The bravest superhero I know." He lifted her in his arms, spinning her around as her laughter filled the room, a sweet sound of healing. As our family found peace, word of Jennifer's actions spread through our extended family. Phone calls and messages of disbelief and support poured in. Relatives shared their own stories of Jennifer's overbearing ways, and soon a natural social shift occurred. Jennifer, once a frequent presence at family gatherings, found herself receiving fewer invitations. Friends and family, uncomfortable with her extreme actions. The realization that her influence was waning hit Jennifer hard, but it was a necessary shift for the rest of us. In this newfound family dynamic, Mike and I formed stronger bonds, not just with each other but with relatives who shared our values: freedom, individuality, and respect. As Hazel's hair began to grow back, her curls became symbols of her regained autonomy and the love that surrounded her. One evening, I stood in our backyard, watching Hazel chase fireflies as the sun set. The importance of setting boundaries had never been clearer. This experience, though filled with challenges, taught us the strength found in adversity and the vital role of parental protection. I used to think keeping peace in the family meant letting things slide. I mused to Mike as he joined me, wrapping his arm around my shoulders. He nodded, his voice steady. "Yeah, but real peace comes from respect, not silence." We did right by Hazel. Hazel's laughter filled the evening air, her joy a striking contrast to the tears we had left behind. She was learning early about personal autonomy and respect, lessons that would shape her into a confident, self-assured individual. Our family's journey, marked by trials but defined by unity and love, serves as a testament to the power of standing up for what's right. For those of you watching, remember the importance of nurturing a safe, loving environment where young minds can thrive. That brings us to the end of our story. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you think it's ever justifiable for family members to impose their personal values on children without the parents' consent? Share your thoughts in the comments below. My name is Zoe, a 28-year-old elementary school teacher from a quiet Midwestern town. But beneath its calm surface lurk mysteries and secrets that would unravel everything I believed about my family. It all began on a chilly autumn evening when a phone call changed my life forever. My father, Liam Thompson, had been rushed to the hospital. As I sped through the dark streets, my heart pounded with worry. Dad had always been my anchor, especially after Mom died when I was just 15. "Please, Dad, hang in there," I whispered, gripping the steering wheel tightly. When I arrived at the hospital, I found Linda, my stepmother of 3 years, pacing the waiting room. Her usually perfect hair was messy, and her mascara had run in dark streaks down her face. "Zoe, thank God you're here," she said, her voice trembling. "The doctors won't tell me anything." Just then, a doctor appeared, his expression serious. "Are you Liam Thompson's family?" he asked. "Yes," I replied, my chest tightening. "I'm his daughter." "How is he?" The doctor's face softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but your father's condition is critical. We're doing everything we can, but you should prepare yourselves." The next few days passed in a blur of sterile hospital rooms, the sound of machines, and whispered prayers. I stayed by Dad's side, clutching his hand and recalling happier times. Linda was often on her phone, which I found odd, but I chalked it up to stress. On the 4th day, I had drifted off in a hospital chair when I felt a light squeeze on my hand. My eyes snapped open to find Dad staring at me, his gaze intense. "Zoe," he rasped, his voice barely audible. "Listen, the safe in my office. The combination. Your birthday. You have to." Suddenly, alarms blared. His eyes rolled back, and his body went rigid. I screamed for help as nurses and doctors rushed in, pushing me aside. Through my tears, I watched them try to save him. "Clear," the doctor shouted, applying the defibrillator paddles to Dad's chest. His body jerked, then fell still. "Time of death. 10:47 p.m., the doctor said solemnly. My world shattered. I collapsed to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Linda wrapped her arms around me, but her embrace felt cold, mechanical. As I struggled to process the loss, Dad's final words echoed in my mind. What was in the safe? Why was it so important that it was the last thing he told me? At the funeral, a strange tension lingered. As I stood by the graveside, I noticed Uncle Robert standing at the back of the crowd. Our eyes met, and a chill ran down my spine. There had always been friction between him and Dad, but the look he gave me was darker, a mix of anger and triumph. That night, unable to sleep, I made a decision. Tomorrow I would open the safe and uncover whatever Dad wanted me to find. I had no idea that this would set off a chain of events that would expose years of lies, betrayal, and a conspiracy stretching far beyond our small town. The morning after the funeral, I stood outside Dad's office door, my hand trembling. The house was eerily quiet. Linda had left for a business meeting, which seemed odd considering the circumstances. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. His presence lingered in the air, the familiar scent of his cologne and the disarray of papers on his desk. My eyes fixed on the safe hidden behind a painting. With shaky fingers, I entered the combination. My birthday. The safe clicked open. Inside, I found a stack of documents and a sealed envelope with my name on it. My heart pounded as I tore it open, revealing a handwritten letter. Zoe, my darling daughter, if you're reading this, something has happened to me. I pray I had the chance to tell you in person, but if not, you need to know the truth. Your life is in danger. Linda and Robert are not who they claim to be. A sudden noise downstairs startled me. Footsteps. Panic surged through me as I shoved the letter and documents into my bag, quickly closing the safe and replacing the painting. The door burst open, and Uncle Robert stood there, his face a mask of concern. Zoe dear, he said smoothly, I've been looking for you. The lawyer's here for the will reading. I forced a smile, my mind spinning. Of course, I'll be right down. In the living room, a stern-faced lawyer I didn't recognize sat beside Linda, who dabbed at dry eyes with a handkerchief. Robert guided me to a seat, his hand on my shoulder feeling more like a warning than comfort. The will reading was a blur, but one thing became clear. Everything, every last penny and property had been left to Linda. There must be some mistake, I protested, looking between the lawyer and Linda. Dad would never. Now, Zoe, Robert interrupted, his voice sickeningly sweet. Your father wanted to ensure Linda was taken care of. I'm sure you want that too, right? Linda reached over, patting my hand. Don't worry, dear. I'll make sure you're provided for. I yanked my hand away, bile rising in my throat. This was wrong. All of it. As soon as I could, I fled to my best friend Emily's house. Her eyes widened as I poured out the entire story, showing her Dad's letter. Zoe, this is insane. Emily gasped. You need to go to the police. I shook my head. With what proof? A half-read letter. I need more evidence. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind raced, recalling all the odd moments from the past few months. Linda's hushed phone calls, the secretive glances between her and Robert, and Dad's increasing paranoia. Something was definitely wrong. The next morning, determined to get answers, I drove to Dad's office. As I approached, I spotted Michael, Dad's old friend and longtime lawyer, walking out, looking puzzled. Zoe, he called out, hurrying over. I'm so sorry about your father. I just heard. Michael, I interrupted. Did you know about the will? His brow furrowed. What will? Liam asked me to draw up a new 1 month ago, leaving everything to you. But we never finalized it. He was adamant about protecting you from something, but he wouldn't say what. My blood ran cold. That's not the will they read yesterday. Michael's eyes widened in shock. Zoe, what exactly is going on? Before I could answer, a black SUV screeched to a halt beside us. The tinted window rolled down, revealing Robert's cold smile. Zoe, Linda's been looking everywhere for you, he said smoothly. Why did he come with me? We have so much to discuss. I glanced at Michael, seeing my own fear mirrored in his eyes. In that moment, I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't trust anyone, not anymore. My heart pounded as I stared at Robert's menacing smile through the SUV window. In a split-second decision, I grabbed Michael's arm and bolted toward his car. Drive, I shouted as we scrambled inside. Michael didn't hesitate, peeling out of the parking lot as Robert's SUV roared to life behind us. "What on earth is going on, Zoe?" Michael demanded, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I quickly filled him in on the fake will and Dad's cryptic warning. Michael's face paled. "This is bigger than we thought. We need help." We picked up Emily and regrouped at Michael's office. As we pieced together the puzzle, a chilling picture emerged. Robert, drowning in gambling debts, had teamed up with Linda to steal Dad's fortune. But how far did the deception go? "We need proof," Emily said, her investigative instincts kicking in. "Security footage, handwriting samples, anything to show the will was forged." Michael nodded. "I'll pull Lamb's banking records. If there's been any unusual activity, we'll find it." As they worked, I remembered Jessica, Dad's longtime assistant. If anyone knew Dad's recent movements, it would be her. I called Jessica and arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe. Her eyes were red-rimmed as she slid into the booth across from me. "I've been so worried about you, Zoe," she said, squeezing my hand. "Your father, he knew something was wrong. He made me promise to give you this if anything happened to him." She pressed a small flash drive into my palm. Back at Michael's office, we huddled around the computer as I plugged in the drive. A video of Dad filled the screen. "Zoe, if you're watching this, I'm gone," Dad's image said, his voice thick with emotion. "Linda isn't who she claims to be. She's been married multiple times, always to wealthy men who died under suspicious circumstances. She's working with Robert, but I don't know how deep the conspiracy goes. Be careful who you trust. I've hidden evidence in the old cabin. I love you, sweetheart. Stay safe." The video ended, leaving us in stunned silence. "We need to get to that cabin," Emily said, already grabbing her coat. As we drove to the family's secluded vacation spot, Michael's phone rang. It was the private investigator he had hired. "You're not going to believe this," Michael said after hanging up. "Linda's real name is Eleanor Blackwood. She's wanted in 3 states for identity fraud and embezzlement." At the cabin, we found a hidden safe containing documents that laid out Robert and Linda's entire scheme. Armed with this evidence, we decided to confront Robert directly. We found him at Dad's house, frantically packing a suitcase. His face drained of color when he saw us. "It's over, Robert," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "We know everything." Robert's shoulders slumped. "I never wanted to hurt Liam," he said, his voice breaking. "But the debts. Linda said she could fix everything. I didn't know she was planning to." He couldn't finish the sentence, but the implication was clear. Dad's death might not have been natural after all. Suddenly, tires screech outside. Through the window, we saw Linda speeding away in Robert's SUV. As sirens wailed in the distance, I realized this wasn't over. Linda was still out there, and she had nothing left to lose. The truth about Dad's death was still shrouded in mystery, and I was determined to uncover it, no matter the cost. With Robert's confession and the mountain of evidence we'd gathered, justice for Dad was within reach. But as the police car lights flashed across the darkening sky, I couldn't shake the feeling that the most dangerous part of this ordeal was yet to come. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and police interviews. I stood firm, presenting the evidence we gathered to the authorities. The forged will was quickly invalidated, and Robert faced the consequences of his actions. As I watched Robert being led away in handcuffs, I felt a strange mix of sadness and relief. He had betrayed our family in unimaginable ways, yet in the end, his confession was crucial in bringing down the entire scheme. The search for Linda intensified, her face plastered across news channels and billboards. It seemed like she had vanished into thin air, but I knew it was only a matter of time before justice caught up with her. 3 months after Dad's death, I finally got the call I'd been waiting for. Linda had been arrested, caught trying to cross the Canadian border with a trunk full of cash and fake passports. The officer on the phone assured me that with all the evidence stacked against her, she'd be facing a long time behind bars. With the legal battles finally over, I inherited Dad's business and our family home. Standing in his office, surrounded by memories, I made a decision. I would use part of my inheritance to start a scholarship fund in Dad's name, helping underprivileged kids in our community pursue their dreams. It felt like the right way to honor his legacy, to continue the work he had been so passionate about. As the months passed, I found a new rhythm to my life. I threw myself into teaching, finding solace in my students' bright, eager faces. They reminded me daily of the good in the world and of the difference I could make. In the evenings, I pored over the books of Dad's business, determined to keep his legacy alive and make it something he would be proud of. One year to the day after Dad's passing, I stood at his grave, a bouquet of his favorite flowers in my hands. The pain of losing him was still there, but it had softened, mingling now with a sense of gratitude for the time we had, for the lessons he taught me, for the strength he left behind. I whispered a promise to him that I would continue to fight for what was right, just as he had. The story of Zoe Thompson's fight for justice had come to an end, but as I stood there, I wondered, if you were in my shoes, would you have forgiven Robert? Despite his betrayal, his eventual cooperation had been key in unraveling the conspiracy. Or do you believe his actions were unforgivable, regardless of his later remorse? What would you do? Share your thoughts below.